Mahoney brains, you're at the spot, the location, the place where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today we are talking with Marcia Thomas Bayne. Brains, we're going to talk about the big D. Yes, divorce. But, how do we as women, mothers, sisters, friends, how do we get through that? When you're at a certain age, you're going to have some trials and tribulations. But don't let that handicap you. Don't that keep you stuck. You're not able to find love. You're depressed. You're mean to the kids. You're stalking him. You don't have no money. All of that is, those are circumstances that you really don't have to live with. You can work through them. And Marcia is going to help us figure that out, talk about it, and come up with a strategy. She is working in the area of divorce mindset as a strategist. She's helping high achieving women over 35 transition from their relationships. So let's see if you guys are able to make the shift. Welcome to the show, Marcia. How are you?
I am so well. Thank you so much for having me, April.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. I'm so glad to see you. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Okay. Again, I'm Marcia Thomas Bayne, and I'm known as a divorce mindset strategist, as someone who separated or came out of their marriage after 24 years. I went through the complications, I went through all the personal, emotional stuff and going through the divorce of not feeling good enough, fears, and apprehensions. And I now, as a result of all of that, get the opportunity to pour into other women and help them transition from their relationships.
24 years, that's a long time. I've been married to Mr. Magnificent 40 years.
That's
I,
fantastic.
yeah, and I don't even grapple with it. I don't think about it, but it is a reality. There are people that change their mind every single day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you woke up with the realization that this was no longer going to be, your forever,
Mm-hmm.
what did you go through emotionally?
Well, emotionally, and just to be totally authentic, my relationship ended as a result of infidelity, and emotionally, I was hurt, and it left me feeling like, what the?
Right?
But you you have to, how do you say, you have to grow, and you have to, as women, do the right thing by yourself, even though sometimes that might not be something that makes other people comfortable, right? So for me, it was a choice that I made because everybody lives in their relationship. You know what's going on in your relationship. You know whether it's good, bad, or whatever. And as a person and I'm a Leo, I'm very loyal. I
Ooh,
do everything to make sure that my family is taken care of,
loyalty, girl. I'm a Leo too. Loyalty.
and loyalty. And so you get to a point, and you wake up, and this is the circumstance that you face, and you just are like, okay, I need to stop, breathe, and then think how I want to choose to live my life. And so I chose to no longer be in my marriage because we grew apart. And I did not believe that doing the same thing over and over again was going to get me the result that I wanted. And I believe that it's important to choose yourself sometimes and not just be stagnant in a situation that may or may not change. And I have no regrets with that. And I have a child, and I want my child to understand that sometimes you do have to choose yourself. You have to make a difficult choice to make sure that you're okay, because at the end of the day, it's you doing you. It's not you doing the world. You
Right.
have to be able to be comfortable with yourself.
Exactly. And there are women and men. We're not gonna just pick on women, but that decide that what, I'm gonna give this a second go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to forgive. I'm gonna work, and I'm going to stay. But again, you gave Einstein's definition of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
You keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If there's a pattern, if there's pain, if there's just some things that you can't get beyond, again, like you said, Marcia, is that you have to have the courage to love yourself
Mhm.
and walk away from that. But
Mhm.
walking away from it and being mature about it are two different skill sets.
Exactly. Mhm.
And having a strategy and an exit plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can be mad and crunchy and, you know, set his clothes on fire and
See,
do all that stuff. But then at the end of the day, you still have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, was this really worth it? You have to save something for yourself. And even after being married 40 years, I'm quick to tell him that, I leave about that much more for me because that's a reserve.
Mhm.
That is a
Mhm.
reserve. So what do you say to a woman that's, at the crossroads right now and she's just really ready to just set them clothes on fire?
Well, I really am a relationship person, and I really do believe in marriage, and I do believe, if it's with the right person, that's good. But if you're at that crossroads, and the reason I say the strategist and I work with women is because I really do believe, that if you're going to do something, you need to do it from an informed perspective, and you also need to do it from a place where you're not suffering, because when we make choices and decisions from a place of negative energy, the outcome is going to be negative. So I really do believe that, and working with my clients is that we create, and like I said, it's separation, divorce, or even if you're thinking about it, because as you said, having a plan is key. So just coming to understand what you are, what you want, and where you see yourself in the next 5 years. And as we were saying, you said in the beginning, yeah, later in life, you don't have but so much time left at the other end of that, right? So you really have to plan on, like, what do you want for yourself? And so that's my working with women, is creating possibilities, seeing yourself and dreaming, because sometimes what happens with us as adults too, we stop dreaming,
Oh, I know.
we stop dreaming about, like, what could this be. And for me, where I am right now, I dream, and I work very much so from a point of forgiveness. I hold no animosity, because forgiveness to me is that it allows me to just release and move on
Hmm.
from whatever the circumstances were. And it wasn't pretty, but forgiving and moving on are key. And I believe that that comes with time, and that comes with the individual wanting to release, because
Right.
sometimes people want to hold on.
Well,
And
they want control. It's the sex, it's the money,
mhm,
it's the power.
mhm,
Sometimes it's not even about love.
mhm,
You
mhm.
just don't want to see somebody else with somebody else. And as Sting wrote a song and said, free, free, set them free.
Yeah.
You have to love a person enough to let them go
Mhm. Yeah.
because
And
you're freeing yourself up for another opportunity.
yeah.
And
And
if,
the main point, April, is that you have to love yourself enough to breathe. You have to love yourself enough to just sitting in all the emotions and stuff that are going on, so that you can control that, so that you can move on. And sometimes I've been seeing, like, I go into groups and stuff, and it hurts me when I see women say, oh, I gave them the best years of my life. I'm like, what? You still here? No,
right.
you're still here. There's so much more to you. And if and working with clients, if I can get them to see what their thoughts are and how those thoughts are creating the emotions and their actions, and it creates that same thing that they say they don't want.
Mhm. But again, it's that victim mentality too, because
Mm-hmm.
you have surrendered,
Mm-hmm.
or someone has beat you down emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
They've alienated you from your family.
Mm-hmm.
They've kept tight purse strings.
Mm-hmm.
They've always told you you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not pretty enough. And
Mm-hmm.
then that starts to become your new normal as an individual.
Yeah.
It's very hard to break that. Someone told me not too long ago they didn't even know what love is.
Wow.
And so how do you expect for a person to love themselves if they have never experienced love? And they keep going to those same type of destructive relationships because that's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
That's comfortable. They
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with crazy. They know what, they know what that's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just doing the deep dive, as Marcia says, just stepping back and just taking a breath,
Mhm.
walking away from the situation, finding a good mentor, uh, having a good girlfriend conversation. But
Mhm.
I am not that girlfriend that you can tell me your problems every time we come together. I don't want to hear that. Sometimes
Mhm.
I want to hear about the latest fashion, movie,
Mhm.
who's playing basketball, because it becomes a drain and
Mhm.
people will push you away.
Yeah. And
So,
that happens often. That happens often, particularly when people are in the mindset of they're limited in their mindset, where they're so stuck in the fear of how this is going to happen that they're like ruminating, and it's like that's the only conversation that they have. And that's some of the things that I work with them too, to let them see their brains, that you're ruminating on this, and how is this serving you? It's not serving you to keep having the same thought over and over and over again. And most times, as they say, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, right? And so most times the things you're thinking aren't even true. But
right.
because you have thought them and they become a part of your belief system, that you just have no control over it until you can gain control of your mind and your brain to see that you are putting yourself and you're harming yourself by repeating the same things over and over.
Exactly, exactly. So we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about an exit strategy. Now, and that's not necessarily, sometimes it's domestic violence, other times it's not, but having a plan. You're going to work through this process. You're going to have the conversations with your spouse. Maybe you're going to talk to the pastor. Maybe you're going to go to counseling. But you still need to be able to set yourself up for success as you move on. What are some key tips that you would tell a person that's in this space, and they've decided that they want a divorce? Um, how do you kind of start preparing yourself and setting yourself up for success on the other side?
Well, good question. I believe the plan starts as soon as the thought comes, right? Because if you think that this is something that you may want to do, then my suggestion is to start looking into it. But sometimes I would say not to just necessarily share until you understand like what it is that you want to do. So looking into what's possible for you, looking into if you're not working, looking into, is that something you need to do? Do you need to find a job? I think sometimes people jump in and they've not thought the plan out, because you're not in a rush. Because if you're rushing, not unless it's a dangerous situation. So if it's a dangerous situation, yes, you may be in a rush to get out of harm's way. And the suggestion there would be to make sure you get in touch with the appropriate organizations and things that you need to get services from. But if you're in a situation where it's a thought and it's like this thing that keeps happening over and over, and you just are like, I gotta get out of here, I always suggest that you take your time, you breathe, and you think logically about what it is that you want, where it is that you want to be, and how it is you plan to to sustain yourself once you are gone.
Right.
And that
And the
sometimes,
children.
yes,
You know,
and that's true. The children are a bigger issue, because it's unfortunate, but children, they are a part of the family. So they then sometimes have their lives upheavaled as a result of the process. So
well, and
it
then
is,
and times there's parents that use them as a pawn.
yeah,
You
unfortunate.
know, they,
Hmm.
either you can see them, you can't see them. You didn't pay the child support, you need to pay the child support. I don't want you with the other person's significant other. It's all of these other conditions, and it really wears on them. So,
Hmm.
in that planning process, consciously think about,
Hmm.
even the dog. I have
Oh
seen
gosh,
people.
yeah.
I have seen people go
I have
go
to
to war.
listen. I got the dogs. Listen, and I was so happy. I had two great Danes,
Oh gosh.
and so yeah, but and that is so true. It's a part of that, and the expenses that come along with both of those things, right? Because there are expenses, and but yeah, it's to be thoughtful and to make sure that you're caring for yourself and don't jump. And the most important thing is if you can get control of your emotions, you are not triggered by the little things that people do. You're not triggered by you're separated and you're looking at Facebook. Why are you killing yourself by looking at Facebook to see what he's doing? I've
You said
never
you don't, yeah, you just said you don't want him. You don't want to be with him. Let him do him.
But the other thing is that sometimes they don't have a choice because as what's that thing they call it, gray divorce, where guys are deciding, guys and women are deciding that I've done this already. I want to see what else is out there, and they've been married for 20, 30 years, and it's a big change. But when someone says to you they no longer want you, stop.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah.
So, because I don't want anybody that doesn't want me.
Oh, let me just say this to you. One thing I always say to my ladies, listen, you are entitled to be loved. So if someone tells you they don't love you, love yourself enough to stop and do the work. And it's hard work, looking in the mirror at yourself, making sure that, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, and give yourself forgiveness. If you're not where you want to be and you think back and said, I coulda, shoulda, woulda, it's okay. It's called life. We make choices, and particular times where we are is where we are. And if we have grown and situations have changed, you get the option of doing things differently. And
Right.
there's no shame in that.
Right. And the outside influences,
Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
mama and them got something to say. Your girlfriends, got something to say. You guys was tight when you was hanging around at the country club down there, but now all of a sudden you're not in that inner circle.
Yeah,
that
happens.
Or don't, or in my opinion, don't be so quick to run out there and troll.
Yeah,
there's really nothing out there. There's nothing to prove. You have to find yourself first. You got to know, even too, you got to do your investigative work. Where's the bodies buried? You've been that wife that's taking care of the kids, the PTA mom, the soccer mom, cooking dinner, all that, and don't know what the taxes look like. Don't know if there's a 401k. Don't know if your name is on the on the deed. There's a lot of stuff that you need to, again, have a strategy for that. But then when you come over to the other side and you see the sun shine again, do you help those women settle into that space? Because that's new to them. You're free to mingle. You put your lipstick on, you can bat your eyelashes, you don't have to answer to anybody where you're going, what you're doing. Do you help them adjust? Because that's a different part of life.
That's a totally different part of life, but that's a good side, right? That's the side where I like the most in helping women, because that's the side where you get to have fun. You get to reinvent yourself however you want to do that. And when you're working, you can change your mindset from I gotta to I'm choosing to do this because it brings me joy, it brings me happiness. It makes the process so much better, and it's good on the other side. I was saying to you about forgiveness. Forgive the situation, forgive yourself, and once you do that, ask yourself, what are the lessons that I learned? What are the benefits that come to me as a result of what has happened? And I can, for myself, I mean, I would not be coaching if it was not as if I did not leave my marriage. I would not be being able to pour into other women so that they too can find joy and peace on the other side.
Well, there is peace on the other side, and you just have to kind of figure out what it is that you want. And that's a big thing, because that's all been dictated by the relationship of so many years. I mean, 2.5 decades, that was a long time to be married to somebody. So let's ask you some fun questions.
Okay.
Let's get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
If you were an appliance in the kitchen, Marcia, what appliance would you be and why?
I got a new appliance recently, right?
Ooh.
which is an ice cream machine, right? And I love this ice cream machine because I get to put in these natural products. It's like 5 things that I get to put in to create something that's so fantastic. And so yeah, so I'm gonna go for that. I'm gonna be
the ice cream maker.
I'm gonna be my eye creamer, because I'm telling you, the best blueberry ice cream ever.
Really? You have to turn me on to that after the show. I think I'd want to be the refrigerator. I just want to sit somewhere and chill.
Okay.
If you were a flower in the garden, what flower would you be?
Hmm. I have a couple, but let me go with the gardenias because I love the way they smell.
I do too.
Yeah.
I can't grow them though. I think I give them too much water.
I'm not a plant. I'm an indoor plant person. I have one here, but for the most part, I'm not a planter. So
Hmm.
anything that can sustain itself without too much maintenance is what I can.
Exactly. I think I'd be an orchid.
Oh, cool. And
They're
orchids are hard. They
they're
are
hard
hard
to
to
grow
do.
too. Yeah, they're but you know what? Somebody said just put an ice cube in there and
Really?
leave it alone once a week. Put ice cube and leave it alone.
I have to try that because I
Um,
do love them. Hmm.
I love them because they're wild and they are organic and
Hmm.
they are just exotic. They're very
Hmm.
beautiful. If you were a car, what kind of car would you be?
Wow, a car. You know what? I'm going to go back to my youth. And my grandfather had a green Fiat Spider with a
Wow.
convertible. So I used to love that car. And it had like all the wood dashboard and things like.
Mm,
So yeah, that was my favorite car. And it was like a deep green. It was not like a dark green, but it was like a Kelly green, but a little bit dark. So
mm,
yeah.
absolutely. That's beautiful. If your words had an odor, what would they smell like?
Okay. One of my favorite scents for comfort and is like a fireside like scent,
Mm,
like a fireside leather kind of scent.
okay. All right. That would be good. If you could time travel, where would you land? Past, present, future?
I would say the future because I'm really interested in seeing what it will be like in the future, whether
Me too.
we as people will come together. Um, and I'm just like really big into like the future stuff, even though I'm not a techie, but I just love like seeing what possibilities are.
Yeah, I like the future too. Because the past, girl, I'm not trying to do that. I don't want to
Been
revisit.
there, done that.
Yeah, yes, yesterday was good, but I don't want to go back there again. I don't want to do that. Um, if you had a conversation with a 25-year-old Marcia Thomas Bayne, what would you say to her?
I would say to Marcia that keep going because you're really special and you have a lot to contribute.
That's powerful. You have a
Hmm.
son or a daughter?
I have a son.
You have a
Hmm.
son. How old is he?
He's 29, 29. Hmm.
You know, what are you pouring into him?
I'm sorry.
What are you pouring into him?
Oh, I'm pouring into him the since he was little. And it's interesting. He like does this on his own, so I really should not take credit for it. Of being an individual and being kind and being true to yourself and what your purpose is and your mission is for you, not anyone else.
And that's so important. You
Hmm.
know, finding your own identity.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say to young women that are into this? I don't even know what you call it. I don't want to say dating game. It's so different now. I mean, you know,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
they sex texting.
Oh no.
That don't do nothing for me. They're twerking everywhere.
Yeah.
They are and that's not all. I'm not saying that's all, but the dating, the conversation as a mentor, what would you say to a young 25, 26 year old woman that's out there, you know, in the world today trying to find herself?
It's interesting you asked me that question because I mentor a lot. And the one thing I'm always telling, and I mentor in a work setting. And it's interesting, I mentor in a work setting, but they come back they come back no matter what. And I think the one that I had talked to, and I hadn't seen her in 25 years, and I saw her about a week ago. And she said she remembers me helping her in areas of things that she did not get from home. And I can get a sense when you're dealing with young people of what they may need. It's just based about how they carry themselves. where particularly in the work environment, how they dress, how they're communicating, how they even see themselves, right? Because sometimes I think they just they're just moving, and they are gravitating towards the shine, that thing, that bubble, the big bubble thing, and they're not thinking about how that looks on them. Like the bobble might look good on this person over here because they've established themselves and people this, but is that what you want to be seen as? Or who do you want to be seen as? So I really do work with them a lot on like, what do you want to be seen? Like, what's the message that you want to give off to people who come in contact with you?
Yeah, that's very important. How, because a lot of times people say, I don't care what somebody think about me. Well, it's what you exude.
Yeah, exactly.
What you exude. And that is very, very important because it is a representation of, again, how you carry yourself,
Mm-hmm.
what your values are.
Mm-hmm.
Do people take you seriously? Are
Exactly.
people judging you?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So
Mm-hmm.
all those things come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, what do you want your legacy to be?
Wow. I've professionally, I've been doing what I've been doing. I've been serving most of my career. So my legacy is let me see. My legacy is that I have worked with so many people and helped them see what's possible for themselves as they move on through whatever life has brought them. And yeah, I think that's it. Just I believe people will say, Marcia, I can't believe she said what she said to me, but it worked. Because I do a lot of mentoring stuff. I can't believe Marcia is a person who loves you no matter what. Marcia is a person who will be honest with you, and I give tough love often. And I think it's important. I think sometimes people see people going off and they just let them. And it's just something in me that I'm like, I can see stuff happening and I just have to say, hey, not my business, but I just want to share this with you. You
Right.
can choose to take it and you can choose to get upset, but I see this and I don't think that's what you want. So
Right.
I'm always like, I can't, it's just something about me. I just can't let people be in front of me and see them hitting that wall and not saying something.
Well, and that's important. A lot of people don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They just go along to get along.
Mm-hmm.
They see that the train is coming, and a lot of times instead of pulling you back, they might push you right in front of it. So
What?
you have to be careful. You have to consider the
Yeah.
source.
Yeah. Not
That's like
even
I
that,
said.
April. Not even that. They see the train and then they look the other way. And then they look back and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened." See, I see that so often, and it's like, but you could have stopped it. It's like we're in. Sometimes people are in that spaces. It's just about me, and I just think as a society, it just can't be about you, the individual. It's just so much bigger.
It is. So tell my brains what they have to look forward to when they work with you.
Well, when you work with me, you get a coach that is very honest and a coach that wants you to succeed, a coach that will work with you wherever you are and will help you reach the goal that you set out for yourself.
That's important. Setting goals.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, a benchmark.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a benchmark. You
Mm-hmm.
have to set a goal.
Mm-hmm.
You have to reach for it. I told my daughter, and I'm tough. Okay. I told her I demand excellence.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And if
Mm-hmm.
I get mediocrity,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But I demand
Mm-hmm.
excellence. I'm going to put that in front of you. I'm going to say, I told you so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you. I'm brutally honest. But I
Yeah.
do it with love. And I
Mm-hmm.
let her know,
Mm-hmm.
that I probably wouldn't have my breasts out like that, when you got
Oh yeah, I've
big.
seen that, and I'm like
Yeah,
you. I'm like you. I
exactly.
I say something. I'm like, ooh, not appropriate for this environment.
Right. Now
Yeah.
there's a time and a place for all that. But
Mm-hmm.
then too, what can I say? What can
Mm-hmm.
I say? But I'd love for my brains to get in contact with you, to work with you, consult with you. Please tell them how to get in contact with you.
Okay, thank you. You can email me at Marcia dot the other side of divorce at gmail.com, or you can connect with me and DM me on LinkedIn and also on Instagram.
Well, we are going to go and put all of your contact information in the back. Brains, you know, just like getting married was a big deal. You planned the engagement, the party, the bridal shower, all of that stuff. You have to plan for, unfortunately, a divorce too. What is that going to look like? Where am I going to live? How am I going to support myself? How am I going to take care of the kids? How am I going to find a sense of self? So it's all about planning. It's about setting goals. Maybe sometimes you have the opportunity to look at a situation, take a breath, and not get a divorce. Maybe work through it. Maybe working with Marcia, her telling you, you know what, maybe you're being a little hasty here. Maybe you take this into consideration. Maybe you take that into consideration. Find a coach. Find someone that is independent from the family, the pastor, the grandma, that is going to give you an eagle eye view of what they see based upon, their assessment, and give you some strong suggestions. Support is what we need. We're not a one-legged stool. So, Marcia, you are developing an amazing new course. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you for asking me, April. I'm developing a course that starts off with self. It's SELF, and it stands for self-assessment, assessing where you are and where you want to be, expectation, setting boundaries and understanding what you will and will not do based upon how you've established what you want in the self-assessment, and then dealing with longevity, to explore what your future holds for you, and dealing with possibilities. And then the F, is for freedom. And now that you have you've done the self-assessment, the expectation, and longevity, it's like finally you're able to move into the person that you want to be. So it's a 4-module program. It's in the beta stage, and I'm looking for anywhere between 10 and 15 women who can come into the program and share with me, learn actually, and then share with me how they felt about the digital program. And if you're interested, please connect with me at marcia.theothersideofdivorce, or on LinkedIn, Marcia Thomas Bayne, and in Instagram, Marcia Thomas Bayne. I would be happy to have a communication with you and see whether or not that's something that will work for you. Thank you, April.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
We all need support. So thank you so much, Marcia, for being here on the edge with me and my brains. We appreciate you, and do the very best that you can. Go in, love, like, share, and subscribe. Love, like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. This may not be your situation, but it might be somebody that you know. All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.